let's begin part 3 in July with Onechanbara Z2 Chaos. This is basically bikini-clad girls fighting zombies and other random demons. I reviewed it. I found it fun, but very, very superficial. It could have had a lot more density to it. It's very short. It's very lacking in terms of content. A lighting sort, I think it would have been a lot more fun with co-op. I think that would have made the camp so much more enjoyable. And maybe a not so serious story, and maybe just like allowing players to like fool around with a lot of the weird stuff in the game. You actually gotta work to get a lot of the really goofy stuff. And yeah, I don't know, mixed feelings about this one. Next, another thing I kind of mixed feelings about, which is Tembo the Badass Elephant. I was super excited when the Pokemon people, Game Freak, announced that they were collaborating with Sega in order to make this game that's not Pokemon. Beautiful, gorgeous, it's basically kind of like Sonic, but you're a huge elephant with all these crazy powers. The thing I like for it is a lot of the backtracking. In order to unlock the later parts of the game, you have to like go back, find more soldiers, and rescue more people in order to like get this count high enough for you to progress. And that defeated any kind of momentum this game was kind of traveling towards. Again, gorgeous, inventive, a nice little platformer, but not perfect at the same time. But I really still think you should play it. It's kind of a weird game that it's probably off of a lot of people's lists. King's Quest was cool. I never played the any of the other games, the older games. This is kind of a more telltale style game with it. I think the company that picked it up is very cool. I love the visuals. The voice work is awesome. The gameplay is very reminiscent of, very early Telltale stuff in the adventure, making it not so much point and click, but actually, having some action in there. I dug all that stuff, being able to travel around and doing all these optional stuff to really impact everything. Not so much optional that you can change the choice of anything, but more like, exploring. And it really did feel like this budding adventure, and it just really felt like a fairy tale, and it was so gorgeous too. I'm excited to see the rest of it come out. I probably won't talk about it until it's all out again. So yeah, I'm curious how it's all gonna end up. But this was a cool beginning for sure. Alright, now let's get into the one game of August I can talk about, which is nothing that was in my top 10s. I had to strip a lot of that stuff out, along with some stuff that I dabbled with that I didn't really want to talk much about. Anyway, Dungeon Travelers 2. I got this game for review, and it is a dungeon crawler RPG, and basically you fight anthropomorphized fruit that are vegetables, or that are monsters, and then girls that are monsters. So like a goblin is a girl, or an arachnid thing is a girl, and just like kind of a weird mashup of a cosplay type thing. So you're fighting a bunch of girls, and you have a party of girls, and you're this dude basically commanding them with like, you can capture them with like books, and you research and stuff like that. And at the start, it seems like another superficial game with like, oh, big titties, you're capturing girls, this is, for the fanboys. But at its core, it's a really, really good dungeon crawling game. Again, that has a lot of problems with a lot of maybe some sexism issues and stuff like that, and it's very weird. The stories, there's nothing really with story, it's just mostly like mechanics and the fact that you capture girls, and sometimes you get like a really, really risque picture, and that's it. But it's actually a really good RPG, so I have very mixed feelings about all these games in part 3. Oh man, let's get to something that I'm actually really, really fond of. In September, let's begin with talking about Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls. Now, this is an action-oriented take on the other games, which are pretty more like the Phoenix Wright. This is kind of like a little bit survival horror type Dynasty Warriors, and they're fighting kind of hordes of Monokuma. Now, that stuff is great, and it has some backtracking with some puzzle stuff, but I found the mechanics a little clunky. Again, very much reminiscent of the first Resident Evil. It's not altogether there. It's a brilliant idea for the series, and the story is so awesome. The story is so good, but the gameplay holds it back because it doesn't let you get into the story as fast as you want to do it. and the characterization with a lot of stuff isn't as great either. So there's some duds, there's some winners. I think the protagonist, one of the protagonists is really cool, the other one not so much. But it ends on such a awesome, I want to see the next game. That's every single one of these games. The story is always awesome, and I think the other two games are awesome with cool gameplay things. Nothing extraordinary, but the Phoenix Wright style does work. And the action style does work, or should work for this. It's a clunky design and how they came about it. But I'd love to see another game in this type to continue this story and whatnot. But a cool experiment for Danganronpa, awesome story. Let's move on. You should be playing this game altogether. I just want to say right now, play every single one, all 3 Danganronpa games right now. Do it. Please do it. These games are so awesome. You have no idea. They may look really weird and Japanesey and anime-like, maybe they are. No, they are. They are for sure. But seriously, play these goddamn games. I will find you, and I will get these games for you. Maybe not so much that part, but I will tell you where to find these games. I don't have the money to be buying games for people, but I encourage you to be buying these games. Do you feel me? And the game that came out right alongside Metal Gear was Mad Max. Not based on the game, based on the character of Mad Max. This actually is Mad Max, another little quest of his. And it's a cool open world game. Pretty in a desolate sort of way. The car combat's good. The punching mechanics a la Batman are good. Everything about this game is good. Nothing great, nothing terrible about it really. Maybe a lot of the open world mechanics are more repetitive than a lot of other games. And if it hadn't been for Metal Gear and a lot of other open world games that I had my fill on or was about to get my fill of, I maybe would have stuck with it. I did not. It's not so much as a bad game. As I said, it's not as good as the movie that came out this year, but it is a fine game for those looking for a little bit more in their wasteland, if that makes any sense at all. Next, we have Super Mario Maker, which is one of the top 3 games of Examiner as a whole. Again, I don't necessarily agree with this. I think Super Mario Maker is a fine little game level creator, but I don't think it's a good game. It's a good level creator, not a good game. It's just, all the updates have improved upon it for sure, but I just don't think there's enough game there. Making levels and playing other people's levels is fine and dandy. It's fun to dink around with some stuff, but I just didn't have the dedication to sit around making levels and or going through levels that felt the same. People just trying to have these hard levels or trying to be unique and, recreating Mario levels or other game levels and these things. And for me, I think Little Big Planet, while more complicated, had so much more creativity in what things were doing. People weren't trying to make these masochistic things. They're trying to make these just decent levels or different ideas in game creation. You can only make Mario levels here, and I think the masters of Mario levels are Nintendo. Again, a fun experiment, and I would like to see something like this be a mode for a new game, but I really hope this is not the end of the side-scrolling Mario games, because that would be a really big shame. I'm moving on. I don't. And here's another game that is so high on so many people's list, and I like, but I didn't fall in love with, which is Undertale. I do enjoy it. It does feel like an Earthbound type game, but there's a couple of things that just bother me. The music, for one, is fantastic. The gameplay is unique in that it's an turn-based RPG, but it's kind of like Paper Mario where you're actually doing stuff and reacting to everything. It's more like a shmup, actually, as you're trying to dodge the enemy attacks from your little heart bubble thingy. And again, that's cool, but I like RPGs for the story, and this does have an interesting story, and I love it for the music, and that's good music. And I think the design and all the pixel art is really cool, except for the main character. The main character looks like this weird E.T. splice. It looks like an E.T. human. It looks like E.T. had sex with a human. The human had a weird E.T. child. I really think that the game looks great, and somehow someone made their own pixel character to put in this game. It really bothers me not so much that I hate it, but just something is off about the main character. That's just one little small thing. The other thing is, I feel like the gameplay is a gimmick. If you want to have the true ending, you got to go through as the pacifist. And in order to do that, it's a lot of repetition and learning how the monsters' moves are. They are no different once you learn their trick in order to defeat them with, letting them, letting them go, essentially. It's the same as it always is. Now, one can say you're fighting a Squirtle in Pokemon, and he's always going to be weak to lightning, and that's going to weaken him, sure. And a lot of other RPGs, you're just hitting X, or you're choosing spells, or maybe doing auto battles so that things go faster. But there's a progression there. You're getting better. And when you're playing this game, you probably are getting better at the game, maybe in terms of dodging, in terms of learning the mechanics, but you're not have experience. You don't get experience. You get gold if you let the monsters go, and you can buy upgrades, but those upgrades are few and far between, and experience actually levels up your HP and stuff, and otherwise it doesn't happen. So you're stuck with this level 1 character as you progress through this game, and it feels like you're not accomplishing a lot, which is the sign of a true hero, which is what this game is going for. Again, it's unique. I don't think it's the revelation we've all been waiting for, which is the internet going, crazy about. But again, I do think it's a really cool game and everyone should play it. But I just don't get the entirety Jesus saves all game that a lot of people are making out to be. If, again, that makes sense. And now to make some people really angry, which is my final slot in September, and that would be Samurai Warriors 4-2. This is kind of a expansion. This is like the extreme that they usually do with these types of game, but then instead they call it 2 instead, 4-2. It's weird, like Final Fantasy X-2. Anyway, it's more of the same. It's still Samurai Warriors. The mechanics are still there from the past one. Different stories, same characters, maybe a little bit tweaks here and there. Fun co-op game. All you haters out there on this series or Dynasty Wars or all these Muso type games, shut up. Find a friend and play with them on the couch. It's mindless enjoyment. It's really cool. Just one of the perfect co-op games that still exist nowadays. Again, not amazing, but still really, really fun to sit down with somebody and have a blast. An old-fashioned game to just play. And that is the end of part 3. Join me for my finale with part 4 as we go through October, November, and December. See you next time.
Boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe.